Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. It is 11:15. First video of the week. Exciting. We are about 2 weeks away from the holidays. So we're looking to position ourselves accordingly, make sure that we're making all the right moves. We got a lot of excitement this week. We have the Fed Chair, Jerome Powell, this week, and what should be a decision to cut rates. I'm going to lead off with that. On Friday, we had our core inflation decelerated on the Fed's preferred inflation metric. It showed a deflation for the first time since April. Sorry, I'm just reading this right off of my notes that I took. So what does that mean? It means that we are showing some cooling on inflation data, which should bode well for the Fed meeting this week. My anticipation is a 1/4 basis point cut this week. I would not be surprised if it's a 1/2 basis point cut. And so what does that mean? It means you could position yourselves accordingly. There should be some volatility, but that's not really my concern or what I'm looking to trade. I'm looking to just navigate this market correctly, as I think we're going to have a nice strong end of year. So let's jump right into it on the stocks that I'm in, the ones that have been working and the ones that haven't been working, and how we can shift and move around. I'm going to lead. Well, let's talk about the rotation, actually, before we get into stocks. A healthy bull market requires rotation in different sectors. It appears for the better part of the last month, we've been getting rotation into truckers. We've been getting rotation into financials, bio, health. It's been good. I mean, it's been a healthy rotation that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. And that, for me, helps me know that this market is trending in the right direction, at least for the time being. And it allows me to make sure that I'm trading with the tailwinds of the indexes. And so I always like to jump into the main index, which is the NASDAQ, which is really the main index for me. What I trade, the tailwinds, I always want to see this. And so we had this high back before November started, and we kind of got a break below everything. And since we have had really a sharp V-shaped recovery, so to say, and you could kind of see the V is going outwards, which is good, so it's not going straight up, kind of what you wanted to see, above all major moving averages. And so for me, that makes me increasingly bullish. I have positioned myself accordingly. And, the only thing that I stand to pause is I don't have my average volume indicator up. I don't. The average volume over the last week has not been that great. So just keep that in mind. Doesn't mean that we're going to, that doesn't mean we're going to shift and move out of anything because of that, but nonetheless, you just want to be aware. All right, so you got that. I'll jump in real quick just so you can see Bitcoin. Bitcoin hovering today 89,000. Really having a hard time. Chop suey over here. I've talked a lot of Bitcoin with a lot of different people, and the way I look at it is, I like the fact that it's above the 20. I have the 20 up, not the 21. The volume has chopped all over the place. I'm still hedging Bitcoin, for the record, through iBit because I hold it. But, I wouldn't run out and buy it, but I do think eventually this is going to recover. I always said that my area for demand was in here, which was at 74. It's kind of what I anticipated. I still think we might get that. We'll see. I'm a dollar cost averaging guy, but just pointing it out. Increasingly more bullish for me is gold. I have really extended my exposure to gold over the last couple of weeks. Gold looks pretty damn good in this area. I mean, this, without pulling up all the indicators, this looks great. I'm exposed to gold through GLDI. I do have a minor Barrick, and I have hard gold. So touching on that. I'm also going to touch on silver, actually, because I haven't really pointed this out to anybody, and I thought that I would. Silver looks great. Silver making some incredibly strong moves. Commodities in general, even though this is not a commodity, looks great. The way I play this and the way I do own LVO. So if you want exposure to silver, this is what I own. I love I digress. I like ETFs that are call covering ETFs. This pays out a very handsome dividend, and if I'm not mistaken, it pays out, it's about 19% annualized to hold this. Doesn't really have any erosion. I own this. I bought this when I bought GLDI, which is in the same family. Again, these are not sexy for a lot of people. GLDI pays a lower dividend. But for me, I like to have a little exposure to silver. So just pointing that out in the event that you want a monthly income and you want to have some exposure to this commodity, your dividend is actually coming up in about a week. Quite the contrary, this responds well to dividend. Yeah. No real erosion here. So if you look at this, so this is one that you can point out if you guys are interested. Take a look. Okay. What did I get into last week and what am I watching this week? So Reddit, I mentioned this on last week's video. I entered this trade. I'm in this. I still think this is actionable. It's trading at I've been watching the short float here. So I got in last Monday. I think, let me see something here. No, sorry. I got in Monday. I'm still in it. Your entry point can be, listen, this is not financial advice. Rather, this is for educational purposes only. I think if you get in this trade today, I think you set your stop at the bottom of this wick at 215. Great risk reward there. So I'm in that. I'm going to kind of move through some of these names. I don't want to bore anybody with the reason. I got into Devin, which is a oil and gas stock. I got in about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. This morning, it got upgraded by JP Morgan to $44 target price. It's at 30. Whether it happens or not, who knows? In any case, I'm in Devin, and this is, I still think, is very actionable. I think you could set your stop here. I own this in both shares and calls. Devin is a equity that you can play that I'm currently in. I got into Sienna a couple of weeks ago. This is more fiber optic technology. This had a really good move today. It was actually up at one point like 6% or 5%. It gave some back. This looks healthy. The only thing I'm going to err on caution is it reports earnings in 3 days. Do I think it's going to do good? Great. Yes, I do, but just be cautious of reporting earnings. Yes, it is actionable, but I would be concerned with earnings, and if I had to advise, I'd say be cautious there. I got into American Eagle. I officially activated my shares this morning. As you guys know, I traded the calls last week, and I got into shares this morning. So I think it's going to fill this gap. So I got in a little earlier. I probably would have rather see a back test than a fill at 21. I just thought it got hurt on Friday, 5-6%. It's down today, 3%. Not that I love buying the dip. I just wanted to own the stock, and I couldn't buy it up here. I wanted exposure to American Eagle. I think it's going higher, more so on the retail names I think are going to go up. So my thought is if you're in a gap here, which is between here and here, could it fill this gap? Yes. Do you want to take an early half position? I think that's advisable. I think you can do that. Again, not financial advice, rather educational. So I'm in that, and I'm going to run through you guys the names that I'm in and how I'm playing it. I'm in PTSG. Bright Health, this is actionable to me. I'm also in this stock. I got in back here. I like this name. Have a 6% stop loss set up. Healthcare name, still doing well. It's showing me no signs of cracking, still above the 21. I think that's actionable. I'm still in Apple, which I got into about 2 weeks ago. And if you really look at the chart from Apple, it isn't doing anything particularly wrong. Below the 5, I think it's going to find some support here at the 21, and this is healthy. You can't have your stocks go up every day. Then that would be a bad sign. So I still think Apple is actionable, and I'm still in that. Let's see. I am still in United. I still think United is actionable for you guys. But I get it. Some people are a little bit leery of this. I think, any area that you see support at that, you kind of look at that support level is that 21, and it's just right there. I don't know. I think United is actionable. I'm in United. I'm not so worried about it. I'm more in a recovery phase. I got into this more so because I was trading this. I got out. I managed to avoid a lot of this. And I got back in, and I really wanted to own this name long term because I think it's going to have a good recovery. And so I think for you long term investors, I think that's actionable. And I think that you can get into that if you so choose. I am still in PLTW, which is Palantir. I'm trying to lighten the load with some of these technology AI names. I got in here. I think I was better lucky than good. It's above all the averages. I still think this looks good, to be very honest with you. Though I do think that we have a shift in segments in a rotation. I still think this is probably the best looking one in that area. And I think you really got a good risk reward here. You're going to know if this is successful or not the minute you take it. You know me, I get into PLTW because I love PLTW. I'll get my dividend tomorrow. Still looks good for you guys. Dividend date is today, kind of a little bit a dollar too late. And then, something that I did want to touch on, one that I'm watching relatively. I'm going to go through some boring names that I'm watching. Steel Dynamics is one that I have been just watching like a hawk. I'm not ready to get into it yet, but I'm going to have this on my watch list. I want to enter this in. It's not ready. I want to see it above here. Above 168 should be your trigger point for activation, and then your bottom set should be 164. So in theory, 168, 169, you take it, it'll confirm, and then you set your stop loss at 164. That's one that I'm watching very closely. Dollar General, I own this in my IRA. I talked about this in my old videos. I got into this, I want to say back here somewhere. Look, this is boring as it comes. Had a great move on earnings. It gave some back on Friday, which you had to expect. Dollar General is just this. These are names that are going to do really good next year, at least in my humble opinion. You cannot ignore earnings with this type of volume. Please pay attention to this because I would gamble, which I am gambling. This is going to go up some more. That volume is not to be ignored. So Dollar General should be. When can you take it? Look, you want to be honest, I think this is a potential that you can buy today on the dip. Up to you. Very boring, not a sexy name, but I like names that go up and making money. I don't really give a shit in regards to how sexy or what they are specifically. One that I'm not in that I am watching, again, an oldie but a goldie, is DoorDash. I will definitely get into DoorDash either today or tomorrow. I'm just looking for confirmation. What stood out to me, I love to screen for this. Alfred Lin, the director, this is just last week, I think maybe the week before, right before Thanksgiving. I don't know if you could see what he bought here. He bought $75 million one day and $24 million the other day. That's real numbers. He bought $94 million, more than that, $100 million worth of stock. Peculiar to say the least. There is some selling to go with it. Proposed sales don't worry me. Those are based off of kind of certain hitting metrics. But look, the chart looks good. Kind of like the double bottom move, even though it's not a true double bottom. I'm going to probably get into this today. Again, I traded this. For those of you who have followed me, I've traded that stock quite a bit. And I think that's about it. Another one that I got back on my list today, which I traded 2 weeks ago on the insider buy. I think I'm going to buy this. I don't own it yet. I think I'm going to buy it on the next pullback and stash it more long-term as a trade. I really loved all this insider buying, and I kind of got out on a knee-jerk with I think I made 12%, and then I jumped out of it. I jumped out so quick. And I think it was just the fact that the market was trending in the opposite direction when we had that sell-off, so I took my profits. I had a good trade with this, though. But this is a great little bio name. So this is one you want to watch. I think this is a good name to stash. So that's it. I think that's it for the week. I'm going to be back on Wednesday. I gave you some good setups. Let's watch for Jerome Powell. I hope you guys have a great week. The Canes are in the playoffs. For all of you guys that don't like the Hurricanes, tough shit they're in. All right, go Canes. Don't be a putz.